Hello, welcome one all, and welcome to the new year. 2023 brings upon us new challenges, a new you, but it brings the same old racing in the Simufur Am Championship as we step into round 4 as the championship moves on to the legendary British track of Silverstone Grand Prix. Jump into the start of qualifying for our drivers and jump into the first laps as they head into battle for another 1-hour sprint Grand Prix. First, we're going to be jumping on board with Jasper for a quick lap. Jumping right in, we're going to follow the McLaren driver on board as we head into Maggots and Beckets. Left, and right onto the hangar straight, a legendary section renowned by many drivers like F1 and Corps. Oh, loving this section of corners. Onto the long hangar. Controversy with many passes in this area. And then now press action down to dive. Oh, legendary corners making up this big British track. My name is Jordan Johnson. As you may know, I'm joined by Bravo for the next hour and a bit. We are here to Bravo, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm so happy to be here joining you alongside all of our racers here at Simufur for our first ever race of 2023. It's sure to be something spectacular.
Absolutely, and Silverstone, a track of many challenges. It's not a track that's going to have one type of corner. There's going to be many different challenges. You have the low speed of Vale and Club corners. You have Maggots and Beckets that are all high speed, heading into the heavy braking zone, as well as Brooklands and Luffield. There's all sorts of challenges to be thrown at these cars, their drivers, and the setup that could be set along. There's so many different variables that could go wrong here. We're going to be following along with Jasper here, setting the first lap of this qualifying session. Benchmark to beat. It doesn't look like the cleanest lap but we're going to be running down the main straight. First lap time on the board is going to be a 2 minutes. 1.1, and that's going to be followed up quickly by the 54 of Denak, putting it immediately a second faster almost with a 2:03 as the times are going to start to run in. We're going to have a few drivers that are going to run through this grid Jinfos to the next valid lap to cross the line. But any different challenges that I would be worried about here? What do you think's the biggest thing going through each of these drivers' minds as they run through qualifying?
I think one of the biggest things is going to be able to maintain that racing line. I mean, as we see in Silverstone and tracks like this, you can have varying conditions on multiple spots throughout the track. Right now, it is saying that the track is in optimum condition, but throughout qualifying and throughout the race especially, that can change on a dime. So these drivers need to keep their heads on a swivel and making sure that they're able to maintain that optimal line throughout the entirety of their qualifying run. And we've been able to see drivers do this time and time again. Doesn't matter what level, these drivers are always amazing at their craft, and I'm just excited to see what kind of numbers we can put out here. Right now, our top driver Denak is able to hold on to that 2 minute and .372 time, but I have a feeling that isn't going to stand for much longer. We've got hot laps pretty much everywhere all over the board. Times are still coming in as Jasper Emble takes a little bit of a trip into the grass and almost beaches himself, but they're able to save it and get right back on track safe and sound. They got about 4 minutes to cross that line and put on another lap. I'm sure they'll get one in before the end of qualifying.
Absolutely, and it is a short qualifying as usual. Only 10 minutes for these drivers to set a lap, akin to almost a sprint race for how quickly you need to get a qualifying lap in here. We see the Jinfulf pulling over in that lime green BMW, making way for Czar, who is on a flyer right now, currently up by 5/10 on their previous best time with still a sector to go. And you're going to have to be besting Denak, who's also setting an even faster lap. But many of these drivers already half the grid, still lacking a qualifying time. They will be running out of time on a longer lap track like this. Only 3 minutes, perhaps 1-2 laps to go. Pressure's going to be mounting very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that these drivers have got to make sure that they're able to do, and this goes for any kind of level of racing, in qualifying, the clock stops even if you're midway through a lap. As long as you cross that finish line before that time runs out, that lap will count. So even though it doesn't look like there's much time on the clock, they still have chance to get at least 1 or 2 laps in, as long as they can put that pedal to the metal, even on a cooldown lap, as we see Fein Yoshizumi going 3 seconds over the original pace here. I have a feeling that they're going to be able to sneak in, get another lap in, and that goes for pretty much every other driver, P13 and below. One thing to keep in mind, though, folks, and for those of you who are kind of normal to these races and not currently in position 16, car 999, that is our safety car, so they will not be putting out a hot lap during qualifying. So hate to break it to you guys, but the safety car, I do not believe, will be putting out a hot lap this time, as we got a yellow flag on track somewhere. Let's see if we can try to figure out where that incident occurred. Looks like the number 2 car went off somewhere. Oh,
The number 2 car coming through Maggots and Beckett's, I believe. Going back a little bit too far here, but looking back, it's a good possibility that saw telephones lose grip. Yes, there it is.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Into Maggots and Beckett's, the weight transfer.
Whoa!
Not agreeing with the tires and the traction. It was always going to let go with the amount of attitude there. The Porsche, it's a tricky car, very, very tricky car to get on top of, always wanting to push itself past the limit of grip, but it's also a car that has almost infinite amounts of rotation, and that can be used to your advantage if you're able to hold on to it. Unfortunately, getting a little bit away from the number 3 there, but moving back out, we're going to the number 2. We're jumping back on board with Jinfulf here. Jinfulf up 1.5 seconds on their time rate now. We're going to be jumping on, watching the final bits here. And nice and smooth on the steering, watching that inputs, but we jump into the final corner of Luffield. It's going to be a long corner for this front engine BMW. All the weight on those front tires screaming. The tires are as they are rubbed against the road, trying to get traction down. Jinfulf up, trying to satisfy that lap, and yes, it's going to be a jump of 3 positions up into P11 there. The next driver across is going to be Ruby, up another second. Many of our drivers setting faster and faster laps as these conditions are getting a little bit better, and we're certainly going to be wanting to be one of those last drivers on track, trying to get the absolute maximum use of these optimal conditions. Track temp's getting maybe a little bit more favorable as well as the tires get up to temperature. This is going to be the final lap for several of our drivers. It's going to be a squeeze for the last couple of trying to even make it across that line. SaberKitsune, when you have the slight improvement stepping up to P14, we're going to jump on to the final drivers coming across here that are going to be getting a valid shot at qualifying. ZZ possibly the last, the number 73 as well, trying to get one more lap. It does look like Randomy got it, so going to be ZZ and Randomy with the final qualifying times of this qualifying. As the timer ticks, the checkered flies, this is the last lap. Move it or lose it, as it's going to be the first valid lap from Wile E. Coyote, and it's going to be a fast one.
Oh my gosh, he's
59.1. 1 second faster of the next position car. That is absolutely appalling for every other driver. They're going to be shivering, but he's still got more qualifying left to go. The next driver is going to be the 223. That is going to be Jasper, who moves up into position 3, but he's still got to wait. There's a couple more drivers out on track that need to finish their laps. We still have the 96 of Jinfulf once again approving, but is it going to be enough to move them up that leaderboard?
We should find out soon enough as we stick with Jinfulf here, approaching the final 2 turns of this track, going a little bit into the gravel there before going right down to that pitch straight. Let's see what time they spit out here. Survey says that's going to be right where they are now at P12.
Yes.
With only 45 seconds to go, we've only got 4 cars out on track. I'm not sure if any of them are pushing for a new lap time here, but
does look like Wolfen is up by half a second here, but I believe Jinfulf invalidated on the final lap there. They're only up by a couple of tenths, but that little off-track excursion, I believe that invalidated their lap. Going to be Wolfen coming around here. It is going to be an improvement, but how much of an improvement is it going to be? The Blue E McLaren, the 529, is going to step up with P8, P8 qualifying with a 2-minute 2.1. We have our final drivers here coming across the line. Firebrand setting their first lap. Oh, and validating as well as they cut across the asphalt, the gray stuff. And ZZ one more time stepping up to a P13. So again, all these drivers at the end were improving if they were just able to put their lap together. Wile E. Coyote, the biggest offender of exactly that, putting in our pole position time of a 159.1, the only driver to step into the 151, which is absolutely remarkable with considering they had no lap time beforehand. They had to put it all on the table and they succeeded.
Yeah, that's one of those things about motorsports in general, is both in the sim world and in the real life. It's all risk reward. The higher the risk, the higher the reward, as we've seen multiple times in multiple different racing series. I've been following a lot of F1 lately, and as we know, in Silverstone and a few other incidents in 2021, there was definitely some controversy there. But you know, at the end of the day, it all comes down to where you end up on that final pole, and it was just a remarkable lap out of nowhere from Wile E. Coyote to stick that sucker on pole.
Absolutely, and they're going to definitely be happy with that, but they're not going to have a lot of time to settle down because we're going to be moving straight into the race, and the race is really where everything's going to be determined. And we've seen the races have been dominated by Denak this season, and that Ferrari, as well as the Tig Gang racing car, their teammate Randomy, who has been strong every single race. A couple of little incidents of bad luck, but certainly been a thorn in everyone else's side. Perhaps we'll see another shock win. We saw some drivers coming in last second. Wile E. Coyote actually a benefactor of our chaotic Hungaroring race when Denak got the terrible drive-through penalty on the last lap and was actually able to get promoted into that P1 position, as well as the subsequent cars on. I believe it was JPEG and Zar who were beneficiaries and able to step onto the podium because of that. But we will jump into the race here momentarily, just waiting on the server to sort itself out. And here we go. Yes, there we are. So we jump into the grid. It's going to be Wile E. Coyote leading Denak, followed by the Blue E McLaren of Jasper, and then the second Tig Gang racing car of Randomy is going to be filling out that next position. Behind them, Zar, who we just talked about being the benefactor of some penalties, as well as Geeg, the Aston Martin duo, immediately behind, trying to take something out of their home race. And we see Snowy with their new livery that is going to be coming into P7 on the Mercedes, as followed by the second McLaren, the Bluey McLaren of Wolfen of Foxdale. JPEG is going to be the first Porsche on the grid, and they're going to be following up in P9, followed by the second RK9 car of Fane Yoshizima. Then followed by Chloe Grant, a position that they wouldn't be too happy with down in P11. And they're going to be a little bit out of touch, especially after they had a P3 start at Misano, but unfortunately getting caught out, and it seems qualifying has caught them out a little bit as well. Jinful stepping into P12, the best number that they could have in P12, not biased at all, but best number that I think you could definitely want aside from P1. Pablo, P13, followed by Neo in the BMW in P14. And then Ruby Kitsune, ZZ Softail following up the 8th row. Hubble Wolverine, followed by Alex Squish, one of the McLarens, as they have switched into a blue liveried Sky, Vela Sky livery up for that Ferrari.
That is clean.
Then followed by Slowbird and Firebrand and P10. And then or the row 10, my apologies, and then Telephones filling out the rest of the grid. Of course, our safety car at the back end, just filling out the grid slots, is making sure that everyone is keeping it safe here. They'll be coming in at the end of that first lap, but got to make sure everyone's safe on that first lap. Any incidents that could happen will happen, as we know. But no rain, unfortunately, no classic British weather, and we're going to have to head into a dry race. Perhaps we'll see a little bit of rain shake it up later in the race, though.
I don't know. We're going to have to take a look at the virtual radar on that one. But one thing I will say, though, about that, all these cars' liveries have been designed by our drivers, or at least commissioned by our drivers here, and they all look phenomenal, in my opinion. Especially, you know, that deep blue on a Ferrari. You never see that nowadays. I don't know. I'm just a geek for that stuff. I just wanted to call that out. I mean, that's That's sick.
I'm sure.
You can't tell me that's not a cool. You cannot tell me that's not a cool livery.
I'm sure Enzo
Either
Ferrari
way,
is rolling around in his grave though for not having a red or yellow car on the road, but not much
I mean,
you can
there's
do
yellow
now.
on it. There's yellow on it.
Perhaps a little, maybe a fluoro green if you ask me, but
10 seconds, boys.
certainly gonna be one to take a look at. It's gonna be jumping into the formation lap as Wile E. Coyote will lead us away, I believe. Not too sure why I'm getting
There
the session
we
ended.
go.
Ah, there we go. As fix that there. So we'll be rolling back onto the grid. Couple cars rolling away. Yeah, so long lap from Silverstone here. We roll through plenty of time to get temperature into the tires, but again, this is going to be a track that is hard on tires. As we've seen many times in other championships, Formula 1 and GT series alike. You abuse your tires here, this could very easily end in a puncture, some kind of spin, a loss of traction. It could be a lot of time, so this isn't going to be just a race on pace, but also a little bit of tire preservation, making sure that if you are going to be using up that grip early on, that you have some left in the tank at the end. I think that's going to be really the most important thing here, because Agates and Beckett's that infield section of Village, it's extremely important to be able to have some tire left over, and I think that's going to catch a couple of our drivers out here if they're not careful.
Absolutely. And the thing is about Silverstone specifically is that it is a very fast circuit, but it's also a very technical circuit. As you can see, this long straightaway moving into that right-hand turn, and then you have all these sections throughout the track where it's just slow speeds corner, followed by a high speed corner, followed by a long straightaway, followed by nearly a hairpin turn. These drivers are definitely going to have to worry about getting on that racing line, sticking with it, and making sure that their tires aren't screaming for help when we only have a pit window opening up 30 minutes throughout, or after after the green flag drops. Tire preservation is huge on a track like this, and like you said, time and time again, we see like punctures, just loss of grip, loss of traction. It can ruin a driver's race. So that strategy is going to be very important. If you had to pick 5 drivers to keep your eyes on, Jordan, which ones would you pick for people who are relatively new to the Simufur series?
Oh, I mean, naturally it would be easy to say the top of the grid, Wile E. Coyote, Denak, Jasper, Randomy, and Zara, but I think the driver I want to be paying attention most to is going to be Chloe right now. As I mentioned, as we were on the grid, they qualified quite a bit out of position for where we've seen them in the rest of the season. Maybe that's a trait of the Merc, and they just aren't gelling with it too well on this track, but we see Snowy a couple positions up, so that Merc does have pace. It's just going to be a matter of being able to extract it. Perhaps the off-tracks caught them out, but nonetheless, they're starting P11, certainly going to be looking to charge up that grid.
Couldn't agree more as we approach this technical section of Silverstone here on this pace lap. Yeah, I mean, not really much else to report here on my end. For those of you just joining us, welcome aboard our Simufur. I believe we're in round 4 of season 2 here at Silverstone. Our first race of 2023 as we get situated. All these drivers are pretty much 2/3 of the way through this track, approaching the starting line on this formation lap here. We're gonna have 1 hour of racing. As soon as those lights drop and that green flag goes, we're gonna be on our way. Beautiful shot down this long straightaway of all 22 cars, including our safety car, lining up here. We're in for a great hour of racing. I can just feel it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we get ready for that racing, we see that cars starting to fan out, double file. Going to be jumping in to get ready for this race start. And it's going to be the Italian machine of Wile E. Coyote in that Lamborghini. The Civil War fighting Ferrari on the outside, and the second TIG Gang racing car to support them. We head out of Luffield into Woodcourt, and we're going to be getting ready for the pace lap down to the start finish straight here, as all these drivers now holding 70 kph. They're going to be getting ready, watching, staring right at the green lights, getting ready to go as we approach the line, and it is going to be green, and we are ready to go racing. And away we go. It's going to be the launch coming out. Wile E. Coyote able to get a better start, but further down the field, we got to look back here. We got 3 wide going into Cop's corner, and another 3 wide moment possibly heading in at 2 Maggots and Beckett's. It looks like we're going to be filing out to a line astern as everyone's going to be trying to sort themselves out. It's going to be one at a time. We have Wolf and Foxdale seeming to fall down just a little bit, able to sort it out as we have a car in the back going around. That looks like it was Pablo going into the grass, trying to catch back up to them. It looks like they're able to recover it and return to the back of the field, but chaos, it looks like, oh, a battered BMW in the background there. Certainly not what you want to see. And take a look back to the start there. Maybe a little bit more, oh, not what you want to start your race, an hour to go, and you're picking up damage right away.
Definitely not an ideal situation, but drivers like this can always shine when they're best under pressure, like diamonds, if you want to be that kind of stereotypical or whatever what's going on. As we see the number 16 car going off the track there, rejoining safely though, and that's kind of what's important here. You know, you can pick up as much damage, you can pick up a lot of damage early on in the race, but it's how you respond to that damage throughout. As we see, let's see what happened here specifically.
Perhaps a little bit too far back for this. It certainly looks like we're going to be needing to head a little bit further forward. Jump back and see. No, it's just catching the tail end. Unfortunately, can't get a hang of what's going on as we return back to the front of the race as it was rolling. Wile E. Coyote still leading the pack. We're going to jump back forward into real time here in just a second. Yeah, so looks like we're going to be rolling through. Unfortunately, can't catch those incidents, too many to count early on, but see the back of the field spreading out a little bit. But that midfield pack after Wile E. Coyote and Dedak are very tight and going to be heating up very quickly. As you see, Jasper has dropped to P5. Snowy all the ways up to P4, the big gainer of that first lap.
That? No, I'm sorry, I was just adding that to you.
No, bloody fine. Snowy jumping in, going to be taking that P4 in the Mercedes. Also another driver taking it a little bit slow. Chloe's up 2 positions, but looking to make the charge down the field. And that is a very tight mid-pack as we have the 73s around. That is Randomy, one of our front runners in the pack. Sent it around. I believe they lost it. Same as the Porsche that we saw in qualifying. Yes, too much curb going around. This one, well held, holding the brake, staying out of everyone's way. That could have been much, much worse. So, well played to Randomy, but that's going to be another recovery drive to add to the list, and that's certainly not what they're going to be wanting this early on in the race.
Another thing that we don't want to see a lot of early on in the race is currently in P20, number 43, Ruby Kitsune, serving a drive-through penalty after that first lap. It's not something that we want to see as we follow along with Fane Yoshizumi here, all the way up to P6. He's definitely one of the drivers that I'm trying to follow this race. In fact, this guy was the guy who introduced me to this whole shebang at Simufur, so thanks to you, my man. Really appreciate that. But no, it's just one of those things where early on in this race, anything can happen. And just it's all about how you're able to lock yourselves in, keep that mentality, and just keep pushing on throughout all this adversity. I've seen plenty of drivers do it in the real world, NASCAR, F1, AM Series. I'm sure that they can do it here.
Yes, but someone's looking to do something is Czar taking a look into the inside of their teammate, and it's going to be side-by-side coming into left field. I don't believe there's going to be a move that's on here. It's just going to be a battle of traction coming out of the left field hairpin, going down to Woodcut, and then it's going to be nothing that can be taken from Czar, but that pressure is going to be mounting from Chloe directly behind them, and this could be a 3-car battle, or it could be a 3-car pile-up as we see Fane.
Oh, his Fane goes wide!
Fane very deep. Czar scooting on by, and it looks like Chloe also a benefactor of that. Now eyes forward as one position has been gained, just trying to get past the second RK9 Aston Martin. And certainly that's going to be Fane kicking themselves for a small mistake like that, but very easy to overwhelm the front tires in that front end machine.
I feel like that was a bit of gas just pressing my heart. I'm sorry, my man. Either way, though, it's great to see this kind of early on action throughout this entire race. We still got 55 minutes of racing, folks. So sit back, relax, and let's watch some cars go fast.
Absolutely, and speaking of cars going fast, it looks like Jasper's starting to make a move back up to Geek, who had made a big jump up on the start. I believe they were starting P6 up into P4. Jasper trying to make a return, and the pressure is certainly mounting as the battle of the British on the British track is going to be heating up here very soon. That McLaren, a car known for its top line speed and downforce, is going to be trying to push straight up to the Aston. That Aston is going to make itself as wide as possible. Look, seeming to get through the high speed maybe a little bit better, but a little bit wide goes Geek as Jasper's able to close up a little bit more, and this could be the opportunity they're looking for. It's going to be a bad exit coming into Village here and coming out onto the Brooklyn Straight, or on the run down to Brooklyn's, the Wellington Straight. I think that Aston Martin's going to have plenty space to safely get through. But actually, another driver I want to point out that we've talked about before so far is Snowy. Snowy up into P3 again from a P7 start from them. Absolutely fantastic from the, I believe, the Killing Fish. I'm the Hellfish. That's what it is, not the Killing Fish.
There you go.
The Flying Hellfish driver stepping way up in the grid and taking advantage of all the chaos, and they put themselves a couple of tenths ahead of the next driver and a few seconds behind the rest of the pack. But the thing is, they're managing to hold on to that podium, and that's all they need to do right now. As we've seen, so many things have happened early on in this race. It's certainly going to be a race of many stories.
Absolutely. One of those stories developing now, if I'm seeing this right, is that Danak just scored the fastest lap, and he's closing on Wile E. Coyote. So it's going to be interesting to see what these drivers can do as they enter in a battle here. Still about 2.2 seconds off the lead, but it's going to be interesting to see what Danak and Wile E. get up to.
Yeah, and it looks like Jinfolf is getting right up to the rear end of Fane. They've been pulling back a little bit of time. Previous lap times not most comparable with Fane's little bit of mistake. But the sectors are looking very, very similar. Jinfolf maybe just able to creep a little bit closer, but here and there, Fane's also pulling away. So we see Pablo. Pablo's, another rear end moment for that McLaren. It's a very tricky car to take and commit to the corner, especially if there's any damage on that from the start of the race. Probably going to be kicking themselves two big mistakes early on in this race, and that's dropped them in further, 3-4 positions to the cars directly in front of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, one of these things about these races, I know I'm sounding like a little bit of a broken record here, but it's all about mentality. You know, I mean, you could be faced with so many things coming at you at full speed, especially driving in cars like this. But it's all about how you respond, keeping that level head, keeping your eyes on that prize. And in this sense, that is that prime racing line. As we see this battle folding out here, it's a 4-car battle here.
We lost you there for a second, but yes, it's a 4-car battle that's taking place. It looks like Slowbird unfortunately went a little bit wide, and ZZ Randomly and Pablo all taking the position to step up the grid. ZZ following tight to the rear end of that Ferrari. Pablo trying to make those positions back up. They've shown they have the pace to make it there. They just need to keep it up. But it looks like maybe an incident for Danak. Danak lost several tenths of a second, several seconds even. Oh no, it's the inside of Maggots and Beckett's. Once again biting.
Jeez.
A nightmare of a curb for all of our drivers so far. Certainly these drivers are going to be complaining to the track owners soon after this race to flatten that out. You have to imagine.
Yeah, that series of turns is so technical, especially when you're coming in off of 2 straightaways there. You want to try to carry in as much speed as possible, but it just doesn't work out part of the time, as we see the number 2. Whoa!
Big incident for telephones coming into the Maggots and Beckett section. You have to imagine that was the same curve. We're going to try to take another look at that. It looks like coming out of the pits, actually. Oh boy, so this is going to be classic cold tires coming from that Porsche. Looks like there was maybe another driver involved too. I thought I saw 2 on our track map. No, it's just the telephone's cold tires, hard rear ends to that wall. That Porsche's rear wing is certainly not going to be happy. It looks like, oh no, Telephone's having another incident on the straight. Oh, I have to imagine that. Oh, it looks like maybe just a nightmare of a race for the number 2. Certainly one to forget at least, is twice they've been in the outside of Maggots and Beckett's.
Absolutely.
Definitely
And I mean,
one to
it's
forget.
yeah, no, but that's the thing about these drivers. I just realized that's 007. He's got a little James Bond sticker on there on an Aston Martin. I just realized that.
Yeah, the
That's so
007
cool.
of Geek
That's
in the
so cool. I
Kurdish
love those
racing
little
green.
details. That's great. I love that.
He's
No, but as I was saying, with rate, you can have off races like this a lot, and it's unfortunate to see, but at the end of the day, it's a part of motor racing. You know, you could have the race of your life and then turn around and just have one that you just want to never think about again, and it's tough on these drivers. It really is, and I'm sure Telephones is going to do great next race, though. I have hopes. I have high hopes.
Can only hope. I mean, we have 49 minutes left in the race. Hard to think only 11 minutes have passed so far. Safety car could come out at any point. All you need is a car stopped on track in the wrong place, wrong time, and that could very easily come out. But I'm sure their car is just in shambles right now. This is going to be a long repair, because it's going to be Geek is coming in. All the cars rolling down.
I think I just heard over race control we're deploying safety car. I could be wrong.
Yes. The safety car is coming out. You're correct. You see, the safety car has been deployed for Telephones, Trick, and Porsche. If you want to take us through that safety car procedures, all these drivers are going to take their time to group up. We're going to jump back up with the top of the grid as we get a quick rundown through the top 10 of this race.
Wile E. Coyote still holding on with that fastest lap. It's going to be interesting to see how Danak, Snowy, Geeg, Czar, and Jasper are able to respond to this once we get all grouped up back together. It looks like safety car is parked right outside of pit lane entrance, waiting for everyone. Just biding its time, just chilling with those hazards on, you know, like you do when you just don't want to pay for parking and you just want to chill out in front of a Target or something. Anyway, no, so what's going to happen here is that as the safety car is just chilling there with its hazards on, all these drivers are going to slow down, group up, and make sure that we're all back together in one spot as the marshals on track can clear out these hazards. Telephone's still stranded according to track map. I don't know if this is probably going to involve a retirement if I had to guess, but at the moment, nope. Telephones is back on track.
Yeah, but I can imagine with the rear end that hit that car took, it's not going to be driving straight at all. So certainly a safety car required is, oh yes, that Porsche is crying for grip. It's not in a good place. Telephones is going to just try to limp that back. We're going to get back with the rest of the grid as Snowy's getting a chance to get back to these front pack drivers. After having lost so much time trying to get through the pack and avoiding all the chaos, this will be their opportunity to possibly go for a win here, possibly a P2. You never know what might happen, but this could be exactly what Snowy needed, as there's about a 9-second gap between them and P1. But the rest of the grid coming back, we have Fane, Yoshizima, followed up by Jinfulf and Randomy, going to be the next up to the grid. So we saw these cars not coming together, but in their own little fight between Fane and Jin. Jin was putting pressure onto the rear end of that RK9 Aston Martin, and Randomy was starting to bridge the gap from Pablo Slobert and Zizi. So Randomy actually probably the biggest beneficiary from this after their spin having been dropped to the rear of the field. That's going to be a massive sigh of relief after that spin. Fortunately, no damage for them, so all they need to do is just put in the lap times, get back to the front, and they'll be good to go here.
Without a doubt. And one thing to mention here is that Fane, Yoshizumi, and Randomy both have 5-second time penalties. JPEG Fox just served their drive-through penalty as well, so they're clear from that. Still listening in on race control. Nothing really coming out yet. I think those hazards went off, so the safety car should be coming in this lap, and we're going to be ready to go for a restart soon. Nope, never mind. Those hazards are still on. I just misheard. So essentially what's going to happen here is that after we get all grouped up together, that safety car is going to book it for the pits, and everybody's just going to send it on out. And I for one, cannot wait to see this restart. 45 minutes left to go in this race. There's bound to be more chaos going out, as Telephone has a confirmed DNF, unfortunately, on this race. tough luck out of the start there, out of the first 15 minutes. But, you know, there's always next race. You know, you always have the remainder of the season, and you can always bounce back in the next race.
Certainly, yes. 2 more races to go, 2 more races to get those points back, and you never know what might happen to the other drivers. They might not even finish this race as is, so we'll have to see how that goes. The lights are off on the safety car, so this is
Nez
going
just gave
to
the call for safety car in this lap.
This is going to be the lap that the drivers come in. You see many weaving back and forth, trying to put energy in those tires. And coming back down the grid, we're looking at those penalties, both for the 73 and the 3. Those 5-second time penalties are for causing a collision. So those will have to be served under the green flags pit stops, as they are not able to come in now and clear them under safety car conditions. But the safety car conditions have come to an end. The control of the field returns to Wile E. Coyote, and the pedal goes down, as it's going to be Wile E. Coyote leading Denak down the main straight, the old pit straight, as we head into Cop's corner for the second time. Just flying the green, and it's going to be the 63 leading Denak, followed by Snowy, and Geeg following up Zars. It looks like maybe a little bit wide coming from Jasper. As we take the wide angle, looks like everyone else has been able to file through without any incident. No yellow flags are flying, and we stay racing. We jump back through the grid. Slober trying to close up the gap to Pablo, maybe trying to recover some of those positions from when they ran wide, but not too much to go. So we see Chloe going for a move on Jasper, a bad exit onto the straight for the Bluey McLaren, as we see the Olympus Mercedes move up ahead on the straightaway. Not much that could be done by that McLaren, but Pablo also following up straight onto the back of Randomy. Pablo showing that they have pace, so this could be a battle in the back that Randomy wants to avoid. And it looks like they're going to be staying line astern coming into the Vale chicane. Positions are going to start to stabilize. Gaps are going to start to open up a little bit as we get ready for the long haul of this race.
Yep, 43 minutes to go on the clock here, and it looks like everything's starting to settle down a little bit, even though we are tightly knit here. Not really seeing many challenges, except actually right as I say that, we got 2 cars battling it out, and possibly a third there. Snowy, Geeg, and Zar going back at it. They're really close to each other. I can see as Zar goes a little bit wide there on that turn. Yeah, but, you know, like I said, everything's starting to settle into position here, just a little bit. As we see Fane Yoshizumi getting passed on the outside there, is the car going slow there? Did Fane
like
get
perhaps maybe damage
dropping
somewhere?
down to P12.
There was a yellow flag, but in the back of the grid, it looked like maybe they had come together with the number 12, which had fallen back quite a bit, turning that position, as many of our drivers are requested to do if they are involved in an incident. It looks like a little bit of sportsmanship there, but we're going to see Randomy taken to the inside of Jinful here. That BMW unable to get the traction of that Maranello machine, and it's going to be P9 for Randomy moving on to the, oh boy, next lap. What lap are we on? Lap 8. This is many to go as we've got, gaps are going to be closing up. Jinful trying to put pressure back on, but we're going to see ZZ also now back to putting pressure on to Sloper. Perhaps ZZ's... Oh, no! ZZ going around Beckett's and Beckett's once again. Boy. The Porsche biting. Oh, no. He's careful on the rejoin. Yes, they are. So, going to be in return, but at the back of the field. But the last thing that they needed coming into here...
Without a doubt. That turn today has been absolutely brutal for our drivers, and I just can't imagine. It's saying that the track condition is fast. Oh, never mind. Apologies for that. I was looking at that as like actual like track conditions, as in like sticky, wet, greasy, whatever. But no, it's just saying that, you know, these drivers are at race pace right now. There's no other kind of there's no other incidents on track at the moment. But yeah, no, this that one set of turns has just been absolutely brutal for our drivers today. One of those extreme technical sections that has proven to be a problem. But it's all about how they respond. And Jordan, as you could probably confirm from, you've been watching this series a lot longer than I have, these drivers definitely know how to come back after situations like that.
Absolutely, and who knows, another safety car could bring it back to in, as we've already seen Randomy be a big beneficiary of that. But that's something that they are not been a beneficiary of has been Randomy. Randomy has taken a penalty for causing a collision, it does appear. Yes, so the stewards have reported they caused a collision and are taking a penalty, as well as the 310 for contact under safety car. 310, that is going to be Neo, who came together with JPEG Fox, and that is going to be a clumsy incident. That's certainly something the stewards aren't going to look very kindly upon, but nonetheless, it needs to be penalized regardless. So pit window has opened 20 minutes into this race, 20-minute pit window. So any of these drivers, you can pit as late or early in the pit window, but you need to come in, fill at least 1 liter of fuel, and change your tires. We're going to see the strategy start to play out early on in this race. Do you pit early and try to get in clean air, especially with that free early safety car, or do you pit late and try to overcut everyone? Choice is yours, but many of these drivers, that strategy is going to be running through their head right now. What is the best option for them? Many of these drivers also no engineer support allowed. So these drivers need to make these decisions on their own. They can't see if they're going to fall back to a gap, and this is going to be completely based upon their intuition or not. Like Zara going in deep, trying to catch up the Geek. That gap staying nice and stable as the two Aston Martins are going to be equally matched on pace and setup. It's just going to be the difference maker between the drivers, and that gap has held at a steady 3-4 tenths every single lap. As Zara has fallen back just a little bit more here, but it looks like at the timing
there's a yellow flag on track.
Oh yes, up ahead, and 54 is off, just rejoining track. Looks like Denax lost a significant amount of time coming into Village. Perhaps, oh no, maybe not. Maybe we had that off track earlier. Perhaps the replay has lied to us a little bit, but it's going to be regardless return to racing conditions for everyone else. But Random Me is going to be trying to return into that front. Looks like Jasper is their next target on the racetrack for that P7 position. Bluey's certainly going to be blue in the face, as that Ferrari's going to be filling up their mirrors on the run down to Stowe.
Looks like that they take the inside line and they are able to get the position up on entering that pit straight. It's going to be interesting to see how they come out on top here. Randomy's still able to hold them off as they secure P6. Granted, with that 5-second penalty, though, wait a second, but right as I say that, Jasper's right on their tail, pun intended, entering in this brutal set of turns here. So far, so good, weaving from left to right, back to the left, as we see Chloe in the pits for the first, I believe that's our first stop of this race so far. So, Jordan, I wanted to ask you earlier, but my internet decided not to be so kind with me. You specifically, what would you do in a situation like this? Would you pit early for that open air, or would you try to pit late, try to overcut everybody else on track?
I think it really depends what position I'm in. I mean, if I'm randomly here, I'm probably trying to push that stop as late as possible. Maybe another safety car, as you are allowed to serve your penalty under safety car here, and that could be big for them. But perhaps in the likes of Geeg and Zard, looks like actually the positions have traded. If I was one of these drivers, I might pit early, as I could be getting held up by the driver directly ahead of me, and I want to get into that clean air. And it stops around 30 seconds here, plus the pit lane time, so maybe about 45 seconds that you're going to be losing the other drivers. That clean air is going to be vital if you know that you have the pace to get past everyone else. I think it really depends what exact situation you're in, but many of these drivers opting to wait a little bit longer. As the first 5 minutes, we've only seen 2 cars come in and out. As it's going to be looking like, yes, it's going to be just filing line of start. It looks like this is the part of the race where everyone starts to file in, and they're just putting in hot laps, just trying to make a position to put yourself in the best position for the end of that race. No gaps really under second. Fane, our closest battle on track here with Alex Squish. I believe Fane has actually dropped out of position from where they were. Perhaps an incident from them. Maybe that was that yellow flag that we missed earlier.
Yeah, actually. No, it seems that they've recovered a few positions, actually. I remember seeing them down at P15 not too long ago. One thing I do want to note, though, is that Firebrand Page does have a 15-second penalty. I don't have access to the steward's notes, so I'm not entirely sure if that was for that incident that you said earlier. But that is definitely something that should be taken into consideration when it comes time to pit, if they want to serve it now or wait for a possible safety car to come out. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. But yeah, as of now, Randomy, Fane, Firebird, and Neo all have penalties. As Fane goes off to the left-hand side, that should bring out a yellow, maybe not. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
just a look at yellow for Maggots and Beckett's Fade's able to recover that. But once again, Maggots and Beckett's that transition every single time we look over there. There is a change of direction, just instability in the car, just a little bit too much, and many of these drivers not friends with that turn right now. As we say, FezzFox has actually just gotten past Pablo and moved up into P16 as that Porsche looks very strict and a lot of damage on the front of that car. Certainly going to be playing into strategy. Maybe you pit early, repair some of that damage. That certainly isn't going to be good for performance. Yeah, the rear end of the car has also been completely battered, but saw JPEG get involved in, and unfortunately a little bit of incidents early on in the race that would have likely played foul into that damage on their car. Nope, no pit lane for JPEG. It's going to be life as usual, but Pablo actually right on the rear.
Probably JPEG coming out on the inside here.
Perhaps that damage is slowing down JPEG significantly.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you can also take a look at the damage on the rear end. I'm sure that there's also some underfloor damage there affecting that aerodynamic efficiency of that vehicle, making it a lot harder for it to pierce through that air like these cars are designed to do at their best. But when you have damage like that, air starts forming up little pockets and just brings on more and more friction. It's going to be harder to get any kind of top speed out of that. But it looks like they're hanging on, even though Pablo is starting to pull away just a little bit here.
Yeah, that gap's opened up already to almost a second, and you can see that space getting visibly bigger and bigger as Pablo is pulled away. But we jump back on board as Zar has now caught Snowy, the gap to 0.4 of a second. Last lap, 2-minute 1.3 for Zar. Last lap, 2-minute 2.4 for Snowy. So almost a 1 second difference between these two drivers. Mistakes might be in there, but Zar is certainly closing up fast, and we might see a change of position. It's just depending on how big Snowy can make that Mercedes rear end.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing to mention here with these drivers is that their defensive skills so far have been phenomenal this race. Snowy able to go all the way up from P7 to P3. I can't imagine that was done without any kind of defensive skills. As we see Randomy going off a little bit to the left-hand side there, going a little wide on that turn into the pit straight, still drafting pretty close to Snowy. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here as we enter Maggots and Beckett's. Not yet, actually. Hang on. Hold. Okay, here we go. Now we're in Maggots and Beckett's. This turn series has been brutal for our drivers, as we've seen multiple times today. But they seem to navigate this pretty flawlessly going out here, finally straightening out onto that final straight. It's going to be interesting because Snowy's able to hold position here, but Zar is closing pretty quick on this straightaway. That straight line speed of that Aston Martin is no joke today. What do you think about that, Jordan?
No, not at all. But that Mercedes does seem to have the low-speed grip in the corners. It's pulled away every single time that they've rolled into a lower-speed corner. But struggling for traction as the Mercedes knows they come into the pits. Zar is going to be inheriting that P3 position as we see Snowy rolling into the pits. The first of our leading drivers to be rolling into the pits here. This might get some reactions coming in from Wile E. Coyote, Denak, Zar, and Randomy. They all are going to be on a similar pit strategy. They need to make sure that neither driver jumps over them, trips, making sure they don't trip over each other later in this race. Jumping back, we got Alex Squish chasing down Zizi, that Ferrari with tons of top ends chasing down the Porsche, who's already known for being a draggy beast. We roll into the corner, it's going to be side by side. Alex a little bit wide, and it looks like it's going to be Zizi holding on to that position for just a little bit longer. We roll through Maggots and Beckett's, a corner section of corners that's bit many times before. It looks like we're both able to navigate through the first section just fine. Alex has fallen back a second in this early phase, perhaps maybe just not trusting the car as much as they should, but Zizi not getting the best exit as that gap is closing, already down to 0.5 of a second. And oh, that Porsche, Zizi surely leaning forward, just trying to get every little bit that they can out of that, because you're fighting the fastest car on the straight with one of the slowest cars on the straight. It's tense every single time that Zizi gets out of those corners.
Without a doubt, and Zizi has had beautiful defensive skills all throughout this race, and that whole sequence there just goes to show how good these drivers can be when they're operating at their prime. Zizi was able to hold off, pretty much squeezing Alex all the way to that track limit line right before cutting right back in and securing their current position at P10, but at P9, excuse me. But it looks like Alex Squish is right back on his tail. We'll see as he goes for the pass here. Do they get it? Do they get it? They do indeed, coming out of the turn. Oh boy, this is going to be exciting. Jordan, what are your thoughts?
Well, it looks like ZZ is trying to get the exit out, but it's not going to happen. So I think the Ferrari's going to start to stretch its legs here. And that battle might be done and dusted. Looks like we have another incident. Pablo, unfortunately, getting caught out by something. Take a look at that really quick, as it looks like they were battling Fane. Coming into Maggots and Beckett's in. Oh, and once again, the curve on the inside of Maggots and Beckett's fighting another driver.
Man.
Oh my goodness.
Nobody is safe from those curves at Maggots and Beckett's today. And one other thing to note, we got some more penalties to dish out. Pablo picking up 5 seconds. Neo still with 5 seconds. Randomy still holding on to the 5-second penalty. But interestingly enough, Snowy has received a drive-through penalty. Not entirely sure for what reason specifically. I'm sure you can look on your timing sheets there. But that is definitely going to shake up this race even more than it has. Snowy all the way up at P3 at one point, now at P13 with that drive-through penalty. Sure, they did just pit, and they were the only one to do so with only 9 minutes left in this pit window. Wiley, Danak, and Czar, they all need to pit. This is going to be one heck of an 8-minute 50-second window here. As we see, ZZ and Jinfulf have both pulled into the pits. Now Snowy goes through the pits, serving that drive-through penalty. This is exciting. I don't know about you, man, but this is really exciting.
It appears, unfortunately, that drive-through for Snowy was for speeding in the pit lane. Certainly an incident that they're not going to be too happy with, because that's going to be completely self-inflicted, and it's a game-applied penalty, so there's nothing the stewards can do about that. You can't argue with it. It is what it is, and there's nothing you can do to argue with that. As we're jumping back through the field, we see Jasper trailing Bluey McLaren, but they don't have to look far up the road to see the leading Bluey McLaren of Wolf and Foxdale. They're flying in formation down into Brooklands here, and certainly we're going to be seeing a panic in the pits very soon, as we still have 8 drivers that have yet to pit 4 new rubber in this race, and we have 8 drivers that are all leading the field right now. Looks like we're going to be seeing the first, the second, and it's going to be the Bluey double stack coming in to the pit lane here, as we're going to have only 6 coming out onto the next lap. As
Whoa! Almost in contact entering that pit lane there. That was interesting from those Bluey McLaren. I just got the name. It just clicked.
Yeah, some Bluey McLarens, they're going to be covered in blue, but oh boy, it's going to be blue in the face for the team managers if there was any contact there. Looks like no damage on the front of those cars, so might have gotten away with it. As we're going to be seeing a couple of drivers. Czar is also in the pit, so just a few more drivers to make it in, and we're going to see this strategy start to play out. These drivers coming out in the fresh rubber nice and late in the stint, they're going to be getting quite a bit more grip coming through, but they're going to also come out onto cold rubber. So if they haven't made a gap to these drivers behind them, they're going to be in a very dangerous position by the time that the race comes back to them with this pit phase.
Absolutely, Jordan. And one other thing to mention here is that on top of not having pit yet, Randomy is still holding on to that 5-second time penalty. So again, while it may not seem like a lot when you're pitting for like 45 seconds on your time and all the other times, 5 seconds is a lot in the racing world. In motorsports, every single second counts, and to have 5 of those added on to your time, starting in that pit lane on top of not pitting yet, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when they do pit. And again, they only have 6 minutes to do so, starting right now.
Yeah, and that's going to be a very long penalty as we see the McLaren running down the Porsche through Woodcourt, and it's going to be an easy pass for Pablo, taking another position on a recovery drive again after trying to get back from that Maggots and Beckett's incident. Certainly, many of these drivers, I mean, if you're in the cockpit here, you have to be thinking that all the incidents that have been happening, just survive. You don't need to push any longer. It looks like the top positions might already be decided, so you just need to keep yourself in line and just make sure you're there to pick up a position if someone starts running themselves off the road. Speaking of the road, we have Chloe, who is our closest battle on track, chasing down Geeg in that Aston Martin, and we can see, yes, right into the headlights, or filling the mirror with those headlights, is going to be the Olympus Mercedes, chasing down the 007 Aston Martin. The first car is actually in the of the cars that have already pitted, so this is going to be quite interesting to see where these two come out. It could, or anyone else comes out relative to them, this could end up being for a P2 or a P3, as we did see Geeg right on the fringes of that podium earlier in the race.
Absolutely. And one thing, speaking of which, both Alex Squish and Randomy have entered the pits. Randomy just wrapped up their pit stop. Alex Squish still in, and it looks like Geeg. Oh no, never mind. That was the wrong line I was looking at there. Geeg still being able to hold off Chloe behind him, but I don't know how long they're going to be able to do it. And one thing, once again, that pit window is closing rapidly here. Well, not necessarily rapidly. You know, it's 4 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock. Wile E. Coyote is currently, where are they? They do have a chance to pit right here. Do they pit here? They do not. So they're going to have to hold out to the last possible second, because by the time that they come around, they're probably not going to have enough time to get into the pit lane to serve that one required pit stop in this window. So interesting strat there from Wiley to hold out on the last possible second, and it looks like whatever Wiley's going to do, Danak is going to follow. Bold strategy here. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out for him with only 3 minutes and 43 seconds remaining in this pit window.
Yes, but keep in mind, just to make the pit window, all you have to do is cross the line before the timer ends. So if you cross that line with 1 second remaining, then you're perfectly fine. All that matters. But if you don't cross that line before the pit window closes, you will get a penalty for not serving your mandatory pit stop during the race. I believe that it works out to be a full lap penalty, if I'm not mistaken. So it actually varies quite a bit for track. I'd imagine about a 120-second penalty here. If you actually saw at Hagaro Ring, it was a 80-second penalty, if I am not mistaken, as we had a driver pick up one there. But going to be now or not now or never, but very soon, Wile E. Coyote's gonna have to run in. They're running currently 2-minute 1 lap time, so they need to either have a very fast lap next lap, or we're gonna be coming in now. It looks like the 51, yes, the 51 of Alex Squish having a little bit of a moment. Perhaps, just the curb. Yep. Too much curb on the inside. It wasn't Maggots and Beckett's this time, but the Ferrari not happy taking that inside serrated curb and coming back over onto the track, just snapping to the outside. Not much you can do about that. Carrying on, Alex not seeming to have lost too much time or too many positions. Just Slowbird sneaking back ahead of them.
Without a doubt. But now here comes the moment of truth as the 63 car of Wile E. Coyote is approaching that final pit straight. Do they enter the pits here? They do enter the pits here. Danak shortly behind them. Let's see if they follow suit. Survey says they do. Yes, they do. Okay. So both of our front runners have entered the pits here for their required pit stop, as Geeg is able to pass them up pretty quickly.
Yeah, so that Geeg is going to be getting, actually no, Geeg's way further back, so that was actually one of the other cars. So 45 seconds, 50 seconds, we were guessing that the gap was about 1 minute once Wile E. Coyote came into the pits. So we're going to look about a 15-second gap for Geeg here. Danak might be under pressure, but Geeg needing to put in a good lap time, going a little bit deep, running into Village here. That could be very big if this comes out to a side-by-side battle coming out of the pits. It's going to be awfully tight, I imagine, with Danak. Maybe a couple seconds, as Danak was only 10 seconds behind Wiley. So if I had to take a guess, they're going to be coming out just in front, but you never know. Who knows? There could also be another speeding in the pit lane penalty that comes out, and that could be very detrimental, as it looks like Wile E. Coyotes come out of the pits. No penalty for them, as they're going to be rolling well ahead. And it's going to be Danak to follow suit coming out. Yes, well ahead. Well ahead. And not even sure we'll be able to pick up the other cars. Maybe just a glimpse of their headlights as we head into Maggots and Beckett's here. Yeah, exactly that, but that's all it was, just a minor glimpse, as it's going to be Danak just trying to get those tires up to temper. Just survive Maggots and Beckett's now. That's all you need to do, and then you'll be able to roll back in, as we're going to jump back over Dude, now Fane Yoshizima is trying to chase down Jinfolf again, right in the middle of their windshield as they try to put that pressure on. This is our closest battle on track for the moment being, but this is a battle that's been going on for quite a while, so these two drivers may be only matched by their mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see Fane go a little bit wide there, I know that these drivers are very aggressive in their driving style, and sometimes it can come back to bite them in the butt. But for the most part, these drivers are, you know, their aggressive nature allows them to make plays that a lot of people wouldn't even consider possible. Fane Yoshizumi currently in P13, chasing down Jinfolf, only about 1.063 seconds behind. Of course, that's pending these lap time updates, but, you know, we'll see them as they come in. But as we see a little bit of dirt there kicked up from Jinfolf, or maybe that was Alex Squish that actually kicked that up. As we go through Maggots and Beckett's here, it's going to be an interesting battle, and I'm excited to see how it plays out. Jordan, what do you think?
Yeah, it sure seems to be rather interesting. Jinfolf starting to try to stretch the legs of the BMW. BMW not exactly renowned for its straight line speed, but it is quite strong here at Silverstone. And it looks like Jinfolf's trying to make the absolute maximum of that, running down into the Vale chicane. As you see the gap opening up maybe just a tiny bit. The Fane is Fane. Ooh, deep on the brakes, but able to get a little bit of time back. But on top of this, while Jinfolf is looking in his rearview mirror, we also see Alex is looking in the rearview mirror to see both of these cars. Alex with their last lap of 2 minute and 5.4. Jinfolf and Fane 2 minute and 3, 2 minute and 2 respectively. Each of these cars are all coming tighter and tighter to each other, and this is going to be a big battle very soon as we head into Village. And it's Jin maybe wanting to take a look there, but not committing to it as they rightly should have at that distance. But it looks like the Ferrari is falling back into the grips of the BMW and Aston Martin, piloted by Fane and Jin. And this could be very quickly, this could be heroes or heartbreak, as we see the gap closing up every single corner. And Alex has got a very large task on their hands to hold these two behind now.
Oh, without a doubt. And as Jin keeps closing in on that, on Alex's car there, on Alex's number 51 Ferrari, it's probably about a good time to mention as any that with only 17 minutes and 45 seconds remaining, every decision that you make as a driver, every single dive bomb, oh, that was close to some contact there. Every single dive bomb that you try to execute, every single turn, every single millisecond counts here. As we start getting settled into our final racing form, it's going to be interesting to see what plays out here. As we cut over to Chloe, who's currently holding off. Wait, am I seeing this?
Chloe currently chasing down Geek for the P3 position right now.
There we go. Yeah, like I said, you know, only about half a second separating these two drivers. Every single millisecond counts, no matter what car you're on. As long as you can maintain that racing line, and as long as you can keep up with that car ahead of you, maybe close in some distance, everything is going to count in this last 17 minutes.
Absolutely, and this last 17 minutes, we're going to see some of those tires coming alive and some of them falling away. As it looks like we have maybe an incident with Snowy here coming in. I hate to say this. Is this going to be a Maggots and Beckett's moment? No, this is coming into Cops Corner actually. A little bit too much curb cutting across that pit lane as they recover the car. Well held, as that could have been much, much worse with traffic flying by. No, he unfortunately dropped in a couple positions with that, but able to keep out of trouble, return to the race, and that's been really the survival story of most of the drivers in this race so far.
Absolutely. Though those first few turns going into Maggots and Beckett's have just been absolutely brutal on these drivers, either Maggots or Beckett's itself, or as we just saw, Cops Corner there. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, though. Although, if I'm looking at my timing sheet right, it looks like Hubble, the Wolverine, has been disqualified. Not entirely sure what happened there. Maybe just a freak yellow flag incident that we might have missed or something. Just something to note for all of you watching at home, just to make sure that you guys are updated on the latest. So we are now down to 18 drivers in this race tonight. The only other post-race things that we might need to be concerned about is Pablo sitting with a 5-second time penalty at this time. Outside of that, everything is just going to hold as is on the timing tables. as long as nobody gets up into any trouble. As we see Jin Fulf hunting down Alex Squish right on their tail. This has been an interesting and a lot of fun to watch here, folks. This battle has just been phenomenal between Fane, Jin, and Alex. It's just been such an interesting battle to watch. Jordan, what are your thoughts?
Only a few tenths separating these drivers, but it's very apparent that Alex Squish is the cork in the bottle here between Jinfulf and Fane Yoshizima. And this could be very big if maybe the dive comes in. Jinfulf has to be very calculated with their moves, because send a move too deep and Fane's right there to take the position. And so far in Clean Air, it's looked like they're the faster driver, so you want to keep that car in front of them. That's the only opportunity that you got to hold this position. Alex, at the same time, needing to put on the most offensive moves that they can to try to back up Jinfulf into Fane and maybe get a little bit of breathing room, try to put on some fast laps, but it looks like Jin's gonna be getting the run through turn 1, running through a little bit deep, maybe trying to carry the momentum, but no, this is the non-calculated move that Jin didn't need. It's trying to hold the inside of Village coming in, Fane unable to take advantage of it. It looks like the run down onto the main straight going to be on. Is it going to be the BMW or the British powered Aston Martin? We need to be keeping close eyes on this. It looks like Jin's going to be holding that inside. Fane maybe trying to hook it around the outside. Jin a little bit deep, and this could be Fane getting the over-under as Alex is a little bit deep. Both +1 for both these cars, but it's all going to come down to the traction, trying to squeeze that throttle on, and it looks like Fane a little bit of a wobble, but the traction might have been just right as they have a slight run onto the main straight, onto the pit straight here. But Jin able to hold on just that little bit longer, and now these two have been released, so it's gonna be 1v1 Wano e Mono between Jinfulf and Fane. Jin running a little bit wide, coming through Cops Corner as we lead into Maggots and Beckett's. Just hold the car, keep it nice and stable. We've seen so many incidents through here. It looks like both these drivers managing to hold it well. Jin finally able to get some breathing room, as it looks like maybe a little bit too much speed scrubbed off from Fane, and that's going to hurt them. But we got to jump right back on to Zar chasing down Geek, as it looks like Chloe was able to get past, and now Zar is trying to do the same, coming into Maggots and Beckett's. It's going to be side by side, trying to put it deep a little bit onto the marbles and able to carry the speed. Geek able to maintain that line, and Zar having to reset and try once again. It's going to be one more time that Geek's going to have to look at another defense, but looks like they got the better run out. So yes, a little bit of breathing room once again. Zar having to reset and try to come back at it again. 12 minutes to go, and there's going to be nothing left between these drivers at the end.
Absolutely, and just keep in mind, we still got 12 minutes of racing to go. These drivers are out there battling like it is the last lap. If this is what it looks like with 12 minutes out, I am stoked to see what the final 5 is going to hold. As we see Geek still defending here, as they're forced off a little bit on the outside, and Zar takes over. Wait, yes they do.
Yeah, but we see up ahead, Chloe trying to weave and break that draft, so Chloe already acknowledging that they might be in danger too, perhaps a little bit of a wide incident for them, but now it's going to be the two V8 machines coming in, Mercedes versus Aston for the final step on that podium. It's only a couple of tenths separating each of these drivers, and I might notice the fastest lap for Zar, 4 tenths faster than Chloe. So this could really heat up. As Silverstone, maybe not the easiest track to overtake in GT3, so Zar's going to have to work very hard to not only close this gap, but also open up an opportunity to try to get past.
Absolutely, and as we go into this, as we are about to enter the final 10 minutes of racing here, it's very important to realize that these drivers are fighting for every single second. Every single second, as I've said before, matters in a race like this. And it could be the difference between P1 and P3 at this, or not P1 and P3. It could be the difference between P3 and P5 at this point, with Geek right behind Zar, only just a little bit under 1 second behind him. And then Zar only 6 tenths back on Chloe. This is going to be one heck of a finale here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is going to be super tight between these three drivers, especially because any incident or any battling that goes on here, Chloe and Zara are going to fall straight back into Geek. Yes, they might have just lost that position to those two, but that's going to mean they're going to be just salivating to get them back. And I'm sure Geek is not going to blink at the opportunity to get back onto that podium. And certainly they're going to be hoping that Zara maybe puts on a fight here with Chloe, maybe pulling them back. Maybe they can get a little bit of a move coming through, and it could be too risky though, because we're gonna also see Chloe, I believe, remember, was one of our first drivers that pit. So now that you think of it, Zara, while also being the faster driver, has a little bit of a tire advantage too. So patience might play a virtue here. The last couple laps, you could see a big drop off in pace from that Mercedes.
For sure, and those tires, man. I mean, in races like these, tire management is key, especially in these later stages. With only 9 minutes and 30 seconds to go, give or take, every single bit of that tire life is going to be playing a huge role into where you end up in the final standings of this race. As we see Zar starting to close in once again on Chloe. I don't even know what to say at this point. This battle has been going on for quite a little bit, and it has been so exciting to watch.
Only a few tenths separating either of these drivers, so that's going to be very big come the end of this race. It might take a mistake, or it might take Zar moving Chloe around, getting right on their bumper and forcing them to defend and making a move later on to a sequence of corners. But this is going to be very, very tight by the end of the race. 9 minutes to go here. And maybe works out to about 5 laps, depending where our leader is. It does look like that might be what we're getting. So time is running out. While you want to be patient, that time is not going to last forever. It looks like Zara just every single corner, just wanting to just push it a little bit harder. Chloe maybe just getting a little bit more breathing room, pushing that gap out to 0.8 of a second. And this could be what they needed. Last lap between the two, separated by 0.5 tenth, 0.05 of a second between these two. It's a sheet of paper at these speeds at how little covers these drivers. So Zara's really going to have to put everything on the line just to try to make a challenge for that final podium spot.
Yeah, without a doubt. And one other thing I do want to mention real quick is that it looks like Alex Squish has DNF'd from this race, unfortunately. So we are down to 17 racers on the grid at this time. One thing that just kind of snuck past me, I guess, as I was looking at the timing tables here. But one other battle I do want to focus on, or I do want to bring up real quick, is that while it may not be developing now, I'm looking and I'm seeing that Jin Fulf is only 1.2 seconds behind on Slowbird. That could develop into something later on as this race develops. But as of now, really the only extremely close battle on track is that Zar Chloe battle that we're watching right now. Only about 0.72 seconds off the pace or off of Chloe here, but I'm sure that they can close that gap with 7 minutes to go. They can definitely close up that gap.
And we actually do have one other battle going on. Pablo once again versus ZZ. It looks like these two drivers also matched in lap time, so this could be coming down to the wire for them as well. But ZZ going to be obligated to give this position to Wiley. They don't have to move over, but once Wiley makes this move, they need to give that position because that is the leader coming through to lap them. That's exactly what they're going to do. Let them have that inside and just follow through. This could be a strategic pass, though, if ZZ manages to stay directly behind Wiley, because Pablo's going to have to do the same. And if ZZ can stick right on the bumper of that Lamborghini, then they might be able to get a free pass coming in here. And that gap was only a couple of tenths, so very possible that they can stay just close enough to get through.
Absolutely, and these bump drafts on these blue flags are crucial in races like this. Like, if you know that you are way off the pace here, and you're able to just sneak up right behind that leader as they come barreling through and pick up that free pass, that is a huge morale boost. And if you're able to ride that draft for long enough, you could pick up 5, 10... Who knows how many places that he could pick up in a race like this.
Absolutely, but we see Pablo is holding the inside, Wiley going around the outside. Smart maneuver from Pablo, but now ZZ's right back on their tail, so the pressure is mounting. And it's not the first time, but we also got pressure from Slowbird coming on the Jinfolf, trying to take a look on the inside of Brooklyn's. And not able to make it, but Jinfolf a little bit wide. Slowbird trying to sneak it in with that Jaguar. A little bit of a slide job parking in front of them for a moment. Now they got to go around the outside of Luffield. It's going to be all about traction. That little archaic traction control coming out of the Jaguar, unable to put the power down. The BMW able to get away and stretch its legs, and that's going to be massive. Come through that pitch straight, and yes, it looks like coming into Cops it's going to be Jinfolf leading once again, as we see Zar putting the pressure on to that Mercedes, and it's coming into the village section and it's coming right up to the rear. The lights illuminating the bright blue and pink of that Olympus livery. It looks like poor traction for Zar. As Chloe's going to start to open that gap up again, and that's going to take a lot of time for Zar to claw back. We've seen these gaps have been just a couple of tenths, if even that. So Zar's really going to need to be picture perfect here to hopefully try to get a move coming in. But we've seen that they've closed this gap up multiple times, so they just need to get in and just get a move in. That nose, that's all they need. Get that nose into a corner. Is going to be wide for Zar, clipping the curb in a big snap of oversteer. Where's going to be Geek following through that? It looks like Geek maybe a little bit further behind, but with the pace, can they catch up? That might kill the battle between Zar and Chloe, but this is going to be Geek with the momentum coming in. Try to make a position, that gap closing to 0.7 seconds. Svane's going to be coming out, getting those blue flags flown for them. Oh, parking in front of Geek, but just able to sneak in time. Oh my, that's not what Zar needed, as that's going to be a massive kick to their race chances. You see Slowbird trying to get back up now to Jinfolf in just 7/10 of a second, 8/10 of a second separating the two. This Jaguar is very strong on the straights, quite the opposite of that BMW, quite strong in the corners and weak on the straights. But maybe Slowbird just needing to hold a little bit closer through maybe one of those technical sections, Maggots and Beckett's, the village section, Vale Chicane and Club Corner, one of those, that's all they need, and they might be able to fly by. It just looks like that Jaguar is just squirming just a little bit too much under power, just struggling a little bit too much on entry. This is going to be an absolute battle with Slowbird, just trying to get close up to Jinfolf. Her time is running out, 2 laps to go, it looks like, and they need to have this happen here and now.
Yeah, without a doubt, and I don't know what happened there with my internet. I would just like to apologize if it made any weird noises on my end. It just completely dropped out of existence there. But coming back into this, it looks like Slowbird is, like you said, right on Jinfolf's tail with only 0.6 seconds separating the two drivers. It's all going to be about traction control and making sure that that tire life is stable to last you for this last 2 minutes and 45 seconds of this race. And folks, once again, we are coming up on the final bit of this race. It is the home stretch. We only have 2 minutes and 35 seconds left on the clock. Probably about time for one more full lap for all of our drivers out here tonight. And once again, the final results are going to be once you cross that finish line after that checkered flag. If I remember the rules correctly, I think that's how we're doing this. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jordan.
It'll be once that timer hits 0, that is going to be that final lap. So you will get the white flag once you do not have enough time to complete a full lap before that timer ends, which looks like it'll be the next time that Wile E. Coyote crosses that stripe. But talking about those gaps, Slowbird has fallen back several tenths here. Looks like through that high-speed section, the arrow on that Jaguar just not able to keep up with the modern machinery. Jinfolf able to keep a little bit ahead, and Slowbird just trying to put that power down. And it looks like Slowbird unable to stick with that BMW. It has gotten an amazing run through this past 2 sectors, able to open that gap up to 1.3 seconds. Really make sure that they have. Oh, it's a little bit of a incident coming here through JPEG, possibly. Oh, is this going to be Maggots and Beckett's once again? Is it going to be the
I'm willing to put money on this one. $10 here.
Oh,
Maggots and Beckett's again, isn't
no.
It? Yep.
Every time a yellow flag appears. Oh.
This set of turns has been absolutely brutal for these sets of cars, and it just goes to show you how difficult these tracks are for our drivers. I mean, it could be like the race of your life, and then you go in just a little, you try to get a little too aggressive on a turn like that, bite too much curb, and next thing you know, you're sent spinning. trying to recover your spot in this race queue. Under a minute to go on this simulated race here, folks, and it looks like Wile E. Coyote has this race in the bag on with Danak in second, 10 seconds ahead of Chloe right behind him. It's going to be interesting to see what plays out because, you know, like you said, anything can happen in a race like this. And as we get into this final lap here, these drivers are going to start wanting more. They're going to start making more aggressive maneuvers. And I could easily see some very interesting racing coming out as the clock ticks down with only 15 seconds left.
Yes, but most of those gaps have opened up, and it's just going to be down to surviving this final lap. Because Wiley's at about the halfway mark of this lap, just needing to survive a couple more sections. Not many more dangerous areas. Maybe F1's turn 1 and coming through into that village section. Maybe you catch a curb wrong that spins the car around, but Wiley just needing to keep this composed, and they're going to be bringing home their second race win of the season. But this one will be completely undisputed, as they were the benefactor of the penalty last time, or not last time out, but in our first round out. But they have absolutely dominated this race out here in Silverstone, and there's nothing that anyone could say to try to take that away from them. They need only 2 more corners to go as we run down the Wellington Straight. They need to be looking down, spotting that brake marker nice and early. Heading into Brooklands, we are going hard on the brakes, carrying the speed through, and just setting that car up on the left-hand side to open up Luffield here. And it's going to be one more traction zone, one more opportunity, but it's not going to be there because Wile E. Coyote is going to be bringing it through down the pit straight and winning the Silverstone race. Round 4 goes to Wile E. Coyote, our 2-time winner of this season. Followed up Danak coming through the final corner, now 20 seconds adrift. You have to say what an impressive performance by Wile E. Coyote to be able to pull that gap on our other championship leader right now. Danak, good points haul for them, just bringing it home in a nice second place. Followed with ZZ ahead of them, and then Chloe just trying to bring it home one more time. They pulled a 3.5 second gap to Czar behind them, and that's going to be P3 for the Olympus driver, followed back by Czar, who is able to hold on to that position after their scary moment, and Geeg coming through for P5. Looks like most of these other drivers just trying to survive the last couple set of corners. So as Randomly is going a little bit deep, coming into the Brooklands, and able to keep that on track and able to survive the final stretch of corners. Just get that traction and you're done with the race, bud. Wolf and Foxdale coming in as the lead Bluey McLaren. The 529 is going to be finishing P7, followed by the 223 in P8. That orange striped Bluey McLaren be coming on with a decent point haul for the Bluey team. Snowy with a disappointing race for them after that drive-through incident, but a good recovery to P9 nonetheless after all is said and done. And props to Jinful of P10. They're starting P12, but surviving the chaotic race and handling the pressure that Slowbird was putting on quite well, as well as the pressure that was between the battle of them and Fane. So well handled by Jin, running out our top 10. The rest of our drivers are just going to be trying to cross the line here and finish out our race. I believe we have just Slowbird and one more, and we should be clear. Yes, this will be the final car across the line. Slowbird finishing in that P11 position, and certainly a race of many stories, I have to say. There was quite a bit of chaos, maybe a bit more than I was expecting with Maggots and Beckett's, but certainly one that many of these drivers are going to be happy to be over with, because that was quite a deadly race.
That was a lot more carnage than I was expecting to see tonight. But again, shout out to all of our amazing drivers for sticking with it, sticking all through this. As we can see, our our top finisher today, Wile E. Coyote, put on one heck of a qualifying session, coming in out of nowhere, putting that sucker on pole like that, and then just running away from it from there on out. Just an amazing race so far, full of action, full of chaos, but towards the end it did start to kind of open up and settle in. But again, just great job to all of our drivers out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Quite a race to be looking back on. Zara actually coming in with another top 5 position, so I'd be very proud of that. So, very good race for many of these drivers. Maybe not the way they might want to have received them, but certainly one to be looking fondly upon. But for all of those that came out for our race, welcome to 2023. 2 more rounds of the AM Championship to go. Denak appears to be continuing their reign, finishing with a nice P2, a good points haul. My name has been Jordan Johnson. Thank you for coming out to our 2023 revival, and we will see you in the next episode in a week's time. Thank you and good night.